Hi everyone, and welcome to a new tutorial. My name is Abdi for asART 3D and motion graphics. In this tutorial, I would like to show you a simple workflow in 3ds Max using RailClone plugin. The RailClone plugin is a plugin coming from i2Soft company, and it is a parametric design tool. And you can create some cool stuff with easy steps and really minimal effort and time investment to create some more complex stuff out of some simple elements like this. So in this tutorial, I'm using these elements in order to create that out of them, and all of it is created in RailClone. And if you're familiar with RailClone, this is fine and you can just start following along with this tutorial. But if you don't have it yet, you're going to find it on i2soft.com webpage, and then go and navigate to Products, RailClone, and there you're going to find this Download Now button. Click on it, and here you can find the free version, which will do the job and will actually allow you to follow along with this tutorial. We don't need the pro version for this tutorial. Download free and install it. And after you have installed it, get back to this tutorial and follow along from here. So here we are in 3D Studio Max, where I have my assets and also some splines that I'm going to use with RailClone. Now let me go and add a RailClone object into my scene first. Click on this blue button and click and drag it in my scene. I'm going to go and center this. Then I go to the modifier stack and click on this button, which will open the style editor. And the style editor is where we go and set up everything from the scratch. Now, what we have to do is select a generator first and then add all these assets to this generator in a way that it understands what to do with them. So first we go and select here in that items list the linear 1S generator, drag and drop it into your editor here, and then you see that we have some inputs. We can go and just drag this input out, let it go, and it will show you this object, and then spline is the only thing you can go and select. And with that spline selected, you can click on this button and then select our circle. Now we have defined where RailClone should distribute all of our assets. Now we have to tell him which assets to use and for what. Now I'm going to go and select these three assets, go back to my editor, right click, import scene selection, 3 objects, and that will bring all of these 3 objects right into my editor. Now what I need to do here is link them to a transform operator first before I go and link them to my generator. Go and drag it out, then let it go, go to operators, transform, and do that for all of them. Now we have all these transforms here, so we can start to link them. The post is this blue element here, and I want it to be on every single vertex that my spline contains. So I can go here, for example, add an editable or edit spline modifier, go to vertices, and now I see that I have 4 vertices here. Now I want this post to be on these vertices, and RailClone calls them corner. So I will go and link him to that corner. Now we still don't see the post, even we linked it to that generator. And this is because we have now to define to what kind of vertices it should react. Right now the corner vertex type is set to corner or Bezier corner, and our circle does not contain any of those. So we can go and change it to corner, which is wrong because there is no corner here. Or we can go and change it to Bezier, and that will show all of our posts on the right place because our vertices. So when I go here and select one of these vertices and right click on it, I can see that that is set to Bezier. And this is why I have to change it here in my generator also to Bezier. I can also go and switch that to all, so it will not matter what kind of vertex it is or which attribute that it has, it will always show the post no matter what. So for now, we're gonna leave it on all. So the next thing would be the railing, which will then support our pickets here. And the railing is this small piece that we will go and just distribute all along the path. And that is called the segment railing. Let me just switch these positions. Bring that up and then link it to my default input. And the default input will go and distribute the element or segment that I have selected here all along the path. But as you can see, that thing is pretty edgy, so it is not a smooth curve that we have. And this has to do with the interpolation of this spline. But we don't want to go and change anything on our spline because we don't have to. We can just use RailClone settings in order to smooth that out. So if I go and select that and then go to the properties of my RailClone, here in the style rollout, I have curve steps. Right now it is set to 0, but when I increase it to something like 50 or something, that will then smooth out my object and gives me a nice curve. So the position of it is now on the ground, so we have to bring it up to 5 or 6 centimeters maybe, and this is what we can do using this transform operator. Just click on that transform operator, and the first thing we do, we go and activate override alignment and set the Z to pivot. So it will go and use the pivot of our object and align it to our spline, or use it for further alignment as well. So now we have set that, we can go to our transform operator again, go to the transform rollout of it, and then set the Z to 5 centimeters. So that will bring it up 5 centimeters from the ground away. So the next thing would be distributing our picket, and that picket should have some distance to its next one. So we have to go and distribute that evenly with a certain distance to each other. And that is what we're going to do. Go and select it and link the transform operator to evenly. And as you can see, it will go and put some of them just in the middle of our segment. Now the distance is here set to evenly distance 100 centimeters, which is pretty high. So I can go here and change it to 5. That will give me a much denser fence. And that looks good. But I don't want to go back to my editor each time I would like to change this value, because maybe I'm going to change it to another value and I want to see how that looks like, etc. So let me just set that back to 100. And instead of changing this here, I go to the editor, select my generator, right click on it, go down to export parameters, and then here in this export parameters window, you can go to evenly and check on evenly distance. And now we see that evenly distance parameter right here. So we can drag that out, go to parameters, numeric, and that will give us a numeric control over that evenly distance parameter. And we can go and rename it first. We go and say that is called distance pickets and change the type to scene units. So it will go and use our scene unit. And now if we go and select our RailClone object, we're going to find this parameter in our parameters list, which is called now distance pickets, and the value is set to 0. Here we can go and change it to 5, to 15, 20, 1, etc. Whatever you want. So 5 seems to be a nice value, 6 looks even better. So I'm going to leave it as 6 for now. Now if I zoom in, we see that there is a gap in our railing and that our pickets are not on top of these railings. So we have to fix the position of them and then get rid of this gap. Now, in order to fix that position, we can go to picket, transform operator, go to transform and move it up about 6 centimeters because we have a distance for our railing of 5 centimeters and the thickness of the railing itself is another 1 centimeter. So in total, we will get 6 centimeters. This is why I pushed it up 6. And now when we want to get rid of this gap, we have to tell RailClone that our pickets bounding box is smaller than the mesh itself. So we can do that in the general rollout by activating override fixed size, uncheck scale segment, and set the value for x to 0.001. And now that gap is closed because RailClone thinks that our bounding box has now this value. And that is so small that we don't see any gaps. So this is now done as well. The next thing would be some support elements here and other railing that will support actually the top and the middle part of our picket here. Now I'm going to the editor again and go and select the transform operator for my railing. Shift drag it down so it will make a copy out of this. And now I'm going to go and link the new one to default. So now it will stay here in the bottom, but I want this one actually, which is second one, to be somewhere here on the top. So I go back to its transform and then move it up to 65 centimeters, maybe 67 centimeters even. So now it is here on the top, but I don't want it to be horizontal. I want it to be vertical, so it must be turned 90 degrees on its y-axis. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and select the y-axis rotation here and set that to 90. Now this is horizontally and it is going just right through my pickets, but I want it to be in front of it, so I can go and move my value for the y translation to minus until I hit my picket. That looks actually okay, could be a little bit less. And this should do the job. And now we need the bottom one again. And for that, I'm going to select these two transform operators, drag them out, let it go, and then go to Operators and select Compose. And in the Compose properties, go and change the mode from sequential to grouped. Now drag that out to a new Operators transform. Make sure that override alignment is activated and the Z alignment is set to pivot. And now link this new transform operator with the default input of our generator. So now we have both of them grouped and send it out again to our default input. So before that, we had only the railing and then the transform operator for it. And then we were linking it like this, which gave us the bottom only. And now that we have combined these two transform operators with different settings as one single group, we can now use that group and send the entire group as one single element to our default input. And that will go and use both of them, and this is the result. I would like to have one of these in the center as well. So another railing which is going right through the center. And this is now pretty easy to achieve, since I can just go here, select my second transform operator for my railing segment, shift drag it down, and I can actually leave that one the way it is, but go to the second one now and change this value maybe to something like 40, so it will bring that down to 40 centimeters. And now link the third one to the third input of our compose operator, and that will group all of these three now and distribute that along the path. So you can always go back and change this if this is maybe too high or something until you have what you want. So now everything seems to work well and our fence looks actually pretty okay. Now RailClone can work with several different shapes. So we can just easily go and switch to our next spline and see if our setup will work well here as well. Let me do that. Let me just go here to the base object rollout, and here I can go and select my new spline just right away from the list. So I can click on this button and then go and select my second spline. So let's take a closer look at what happened now. Well, the first one is missing, and the middle one, or actually the corner segments or posts, are just cut in half and turned 45 degrees or something. And the end segment is missing as well. Actually, here is the start and that is the end, but both of them are missing. So we have to fix this, and we can fix it by going back to our editor. Go and search for your post segment. Now the transform operator goes to the corner, and we can link it now to the end and also to our start input. Now it gives us one at the start and at the end of our spline. But the alignment is not right yet, since the beginning of this spline should actually be the center of that post. And we can fix it by going to the transform operator of our post, activate override alignment, set the Z to pivot and change the X to center. That will now move that to the center, and it will also work with the pivot from our object on the Z axis, so it is just on the bottom. Now the next thing is fixing this problem, which is actually because of the bending. So every corner element gets bent automatically, and we can avoid this bending by selecting the transform operator again, go to deform, activate override deform, and then get rid of bend. Now it is following our path and it rotates 45 degrees, and we can go and turn that off as well. So select the linear 1S generator and then uncheck align to path, and that will fix this problem. So that looks now much better. Here in RailClone, we also have a direct possibility to round our corners if we want to without modifying our spline at all. So we can just select our RailClone object and then go back to the editor, select the generator, and there you're going to see that feeler radius. Change this to something like 30, for example, or set it to 60, 100, or whatever you wish, and that will go and round your corners for you. This is pretty awesome. And you can also export this parameter as well and go and tweak all the values what you want directly from the parameters list. So right now, when we change that, sometimes it happens that we have a gap here, and you can go and change it slightly and it will take care of that. So if that happens, just change it really pretty slightly. Sometimes it works with something like 49.56 or something like that. But just that you know, you can go and fix that by tweaking that value. But here's another thing that we can see, and that is this gap between the post and the railing again. And here we have the same issue with the bounding box. And we can solve it just the same way. Go to the transform operator for your post segment this time, and then switch to general, activate override fix size, and then uncheck scale segment and change the value for X to 0.001. And this will also get rid of that gap. And now everything seems to work fine on this spline as well. So now let's take a look at another example where the spline isn't touching the ground. Something like this, which goes higher up in the air. Now we can go and select our RailClone object again and change the path to this one. And yes, we have some issues here, as you can see. So the alignment is not right, and yeah, it's a mess. Just by looking at it, it is not something that you would use in any kind of project if it is a serious thing. So well, we can fix all that. Go to the editor and select the transform operator for your picket first. Go up to deform, then activate override deform and make sure it is set to stepped. So that is fixing this problem with our picket alignment. We can do the same thing for our post now. So select the transform operator for the post segment. Go up to deform and set that one to stepped as well. And this is going to align all of our posts vertically and not mess that up and follow the path or something. Now we have to select the transform operator for our compose operator and set that deform for this one to vertical. And this is what now that does for us. And the reason that you can see here is a kind of an arc happening here is because of the feeler radius that we changed right before. So we can go back to our linear 1s generator and then set the feeder radius back to 0. That will fix that problem. So now it works even if you have something going up like this. Sometimes you have stairs and so on that you want to have some fences as protection or guard, and you can use that to do so. Now, if you have a situation where you want to have two of these walls, you can also do that by going back to the generator. Just select it, activate mirror, and then go and click on flip B and set the Y offset to whatever you want. So I'm going to set it to 35, and that will give me a 70 centimeters distance between them. So the distance is twice as high as the offset value that you are typing in here. So when I go 50, that will go to 100 centimeters now. And this is how you can use one single spline, but the mirror feature to create your assets or your model, or in this case, that fence on both sides. So let me get rid of this and change it back to 0. And now with everything set, we should be able to change it to this more complicated shape and see what happens. And everything works perfectly fine. Now you can always go to your assets and do changes to them. So if I go here, for example, and then select my poly and then add a new editable poly on top of it maybe, then I'm going here and give that some more loops. Just as a quick example, we have something like this. Now when I go back, everything is updated and I am ready to go. This is pretty fantastic. So you can really always go and change your model, add details to it and so on, and that will just update in seconds. And if you don't want this post here, for example, right in the center, you can go and open your editor again and change this vertex type from all to corner or Bezier corner, and that will remove the middle part or the middle post here, since this is just a Bezier and no Bezier corner vertex. So the last thing I would like to show you here is creating a simple flue. Now let me go and select my RailClone again and switch the spline to this circle. And now I also have to go back and switch my vertex type again to all so I see them. And now I want to close or cap the bottom of this cage, let's say. For this, I'm going to create a new RailClone object and open that editor. And instead of doing everything from the scratch, I can go and switch to macros down here, then go to generators, fluors, and then drag and drop this plank fluor macro into my editor. There I have it. Now I need two inputs, which is the clipping area, and this is going to be my circle, and a segment, which is that yellow one here. Now let me drag that out, go to Object Spline, and then click on my spline here, and go and select my plate or my fluor segment, right click in my editor, import scene selection one object, And now I can go and drag that out to a new operator, transform, select the transform operator, activate override alignment, set the Z alignment to pivot, and now link that to my segment. And this is creating my fluo out of the single block that I have. So now let me get rid of my segments in my scene here. And now we have to go and do two things. First thing is we have to close these gaps. And we can do that by selecting our macro and checking on this checkbox, which is cap slice ends. That will just go and cap them. And the next thing is its position. So we have to bring that up to the same position as our rating is, and that was 5 centimeters. Now we can set it actually to 5.2 maybe. And there we have it. Now we have a cage with a closed bottom. So that is capped. So let's say that we still need some opening here to maybe go in there, and we don't want these fence to go all around, but I don't want to go and delete anything from my spline here, since that would go and mess up my fluo as well. But what I can do is go and select a portion of my spline, and I'm going to divide that with one extra segment. So I click on that. That will give me these posts right in the center, since I have a new vertex here after dividing that. Now I can select this portion and set its ID to number 2. Nothing changes yet, but I can go now to my editor again, select my generator, go to limits, activate material ID. And since it is set to 1, it will use or distribute our segments on material ID 1 or segment ID 1 and nothing else. And since that segment has number 2 right now, it will not get distributed for this part. And now we have a gap, or we have an opening that we can easily use to go in and out. So this is actually it. That is the short essential steps in RailClone if you're a beginner, and you can use it for much more than what I am showing you right here. Go and feel free to visit i2Soft webpage and go through the gallery and watch some tutorials up there. They are really awesome, and the product is just really powerful, and it is really fast to work with and pretty enjoyable once you get your setup and once you understand how everything really works and what the potential of it actually is. So hopefully this tutorial is useful to you, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. Have a great and successful time. Bye bye.